My name is Ben Jardine. I'm the Chief of Product of the Heavyweight Vehicles in Arrival. Today I'm talking about Arrival as a company. We're a newly formed company, and also the relationship that we have with Royal Mail and the trials that we're doing so far. So to start on Arrival, we're a company developing smart electric vehicles. Our mission is to move to a world without diesel or petrol fuel vehicles. Our focus currently is on commercial vehicles. Our aim and key aim is to remove the price barrier for adopting EVs. We're a mix of software and hardware kind of people. We're creating a device on wheels, and we're completely redesigning the manufacturing process in which vehicles are produced today. The world as we know it today is behind from what everyone believes is possible. I think if you look at the evolution of trucks, vans, cars to date in the last 25 years, they still look like the same product as they did 25 years ago. The technology underneath has improved, but the actual vehicle itself is very, very similar. We're introducing a new product from the ground up. This product on the picture today shows our van product, which is 3.5 tonne, but we're also developing products ranging from 3.5 tonne all the way up to 26 tonne and all products in between. Very modular platform, modular powertrain, utilisation of the same components throughout all these vehicle ranges. Luckily for us, we've got no legacy behind us. We're a brand new company. We're able to do this from the ground up. So we've had a perfect opportunity to rip up the rule book, tear up how the normal vehicle is produced, and look at how it could be produced, knowing what products we want to build in the future and also now. I'm going to pass you on to Grahame for a little bit on the Royal Mail.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Grahame Bennett. I head up the fleet engineering team, so part of Royal Mail Fleet and part of the wider group of Royal Mail. I think what I'd just like to point out here is the size of the fleet that we actually deal with. So we're looking at over 47,000 vehicles, and at Christmas that rises to over 50,000 vehicles. So quite a challenge in managing that fleet. We're well aware of actually the environmental impact that that fleet has in the UK. So anything that we can do, not just around electric vehicles, but any innovation we're keen to explore and move on with. And I think we face, as the logistics industry, a huge challenge coming, but also an exciting time in what the innovation and technology is that's ahead of us. I won't dwell on too much on the numbers there, but I think if you look at our double-deck fleet, you'll see that if any of you travel the motorways regularly, you'll see those numbers on the double-deck fleet, 16 billion items safely delivered across 29 million addresses. So we use that as part of our livery, and that double-deck fleet in itself is reducing our environmental impact, and we're growing that. So that sits around 1,200 trailers now. A challenge here is 90,000 drivers who all have an opinion on what we should be doing with our fleet and how to drive that and what type of fleet it should be. So there's just some key numbers. The journey with Arrival, an interesting journey that we first started in December 2015. I'd describe it as a marathon, not a sprint. We were really attracted to the proposition when we actually spoke to Arrival around what they were offering and what they planned to do in the world of electric vehicles. So we took the chance to work with Arrival. For me, it's around Arrival are actually designing electric vehicles from the bottom up. So this is not converting an existing vehicle, taking out the diesel technology or the petrol technology and converting it. This is actually from the bottom up. And as an engineer, what attracted me was the way that they simplify the design. So the vehicle is very modular, it's very simple to work on, and actually you can change the vehicle because of that modulation. So we've got one of the current vehicles has got a range extender. If we want to take that off and fit an extra battery, it's 6 bolts to take off the range extender, which has got the generator on the back, undo a plug, and then fit a battery in its place. So actually that fleet is designing itself in the way that Arrival do it, for us to be able to move that around and use it in different routes and understand it in a much better way. The vehicle's lighter. We currently use some 6-tonne vehicles that have the capacity that a traditional 7.5-tonne vehicle with a diesel engine in the same capacity. So we can fit 15 containers onto a 6-tonne vehicle that would have been a 7.5-tonne vehicle. Matching the purchase price of existing fuel vehicles was probably one of the key points when they came and presented to us as Arrival, and actually that's when we picked up, sat up in the seats and started to take some real notice, because we've done electric vehicles in the past, back in 2000, and probably earlier than that, but actually the price was prohibitive, and actually the technology was holding us back at that point. So this is an exciting time. Ben will talk a bit later on about making them connected and smart. But the service costs, the other way in terms of the design, the motor on the vehicle, a 6-ton truck has 2 motors, so it becomes 4-wheel drive. If it's a 3.5-ton truck, it's 1 motor, but it's the same motor. If it's a 26-ton truck, it's just another number of motors fitted, but it's the same electric motor. You don't get that in a diesel vehicle in terms of all of the ranges of truck. So the journey started, we kicked the partnership off, as I said, back in December 2015. My team's responsible for the specification that we put into Royal Mail vehicles, so we work closely with Ben and his team in terms of what that would look like, so that just the vehicle for a driver doesn't look too different in terms of the operation for him once he receives it. We do our own maintenance within Royal Mail, so Royal Mail Fleet provides a maintenance facility, 110 workshops and over 1,000 technicians that are working on the Royal Mail Fleet and also doing third-party service and maintenance. So it was important to us that our guys can actually maintain the vehicle, and we need to understand that. We see that as part of the journey going forward, and being able to offer that service to other companies as well. Setting up the charging infrastructure was relatively straightforward with this project, but it actually enabled us to learn for 100 other vehicles that we deployed across our estate as well. And then the driver training. We took a prototype vehicle into Mount Pleasant, where the first vehicles are based. And the interest was immediate from those drivers. The first driver that got into the vehicle and drove it around the yard said, wow, what a huge difference to having to drive a diesel vehicle with a 6-speed gearbox around London in the traffic on a daily basis. And that kind of sold it for the drivers immediately. But we've got driver coaches who do the coaching for the drivers, so they've all been working very closely with Arrival and are up to speed with a lot more around the vehicle on a daily basis. And then just on the right-hand side there is the portal, so we can link into the portal on a daily basis and check what the vehicle's doing, how many stops it's made, what the charging was, and how much of that has cost us for that journey. So the journey so far, great support, our union, drivers and the wider industry. So when we launched the first vehicle in August, I think it was the most social media hits that we'd ever seen in Royal Mail. As I've said, the drivers love driving the vehicle. And over that period of time since August, we've seen a 15% improvement in energy efficiency with the technology and the changes that Arrival have been making. It's a real partnership, so they're really interested in taking the feedback from our drivers, and we've made a number of changes. We'll be looking at changes in the next vehicles based on what the drivers are feeding back. And as I said, it's assisted our learning and deployment of another 100 electric vehicles in our delivery network, which has been rather a challenge in terms of infrastructure, but we've learned from the initial deployment here. And then the partnership was recognised as the Editor's Choice in Watt Van Awards in 2018.
That's great. So on average with the Royal Mail trips, we've got the vehicles on a couple of routes within Royal Mail in central London at the moment. On average we're looking at 35 miles per day. So when we originally spec'd up the vehicle, we did spec it with a range extender. The next set of vehicles are not going to have the range extender. It isn't actually required. But at the time of entering the project with Royal Mail, there was an anxiety there. What do we do if we run out of battery? How do we keep the vehicles running if we decide to change a route? We are, however, going to be looking at different routes in the next few months as well with Royal Mail, slightly further routes that will go on to motorway mileage, particularly a route that's from Stansted from central London. Average cost at the moment is looking about 16p per mile, but we're improving that every day. As Grahame mentioned before, we've improved 15% on the energy efficiency. I mean, I don't know how long it's taken a diesel engine to do 2 or 3% energy efficiency in the last 20 years, but we've done it within 6 months on this product. And we've also been testing the products at Millbrook, and the data from there shows with the Figgy cycle that we're also already 20% better off than some of the competitors in the market. 80 is a number of updates that we've made to the software since September, so key updates, and 300,000 new lines of code. So as I mentioned before, we're going to be developing a product which we try and simplify the hardware. So by having the number of motors, the same motor across all different vehicle platforms, it's just the number of them increases, and putting the complexity into the software. So there's big information at the moment on big data. Everyone's doing big data, everyone's analysing data. And then that data is being compiled into ways that the fleet manager can read it and understand it and do something about it. I think the difference with Arrival and perhaps other data management companies is that we're actually doing something automatically to the vehicle. The vehicle is intelligent. The vehicle will update itself depending on the driver, who's in at that moment, and the way it's been driven. So the updates are immediate. It's not something that needs to be analysed by an individual within a fleet. So what have we been improving? So we've been designing the specification to be lightweight. Every commercial vehicle needs to be lightweight. We're actually finding our electric vehicles are actually going to be lighter than diesels, which is kind of counter what the industry was expecting. And of course, that's increasing the payload. Duty cycle, as I mentioned, we don't need the range extender on all the vehicles, which is why we offer it on an option. In fact, on the 3.5 ton size vehicle, we won't be offering a range extender at all because we actually don't believe it's required anymore. Improved ancillary systems, so beyond the powertrain of the vehicle, you have ancillary loads that are quite heavy on a commercial vehicle. So you look at compressors, heaters, power steering pumps, fans, water pumps, that kind of thing, and it's how to manage them. The majority of the components on the Arrival vehicles are designed by Arrival and manufactured by Arrival partners. We're not buying off-the-shelf items, so therefore we've got full control of every piece of hardware on the vehicle, and we can update and change the way they act immediately, all the time. Software updates to date have been required by ignition cycling and somebody being in the cab to do that. We've started implementing over-the-air updates within Royal Mail, so the vehicle is being updated over the night and ready in the morning for when the driver wants to use it. There's some components on the vehicle that we can't really do much about at the moment because of the infrastructure in some of these big fleets. So if you take the tail lift, for instance, tail lift is very heavy at the moment. It's unbalanced for us as a product. So we're looking at other ways of how to improve that, and we're working with various companies such as tail lift manufacturers in order to improve that. And one of the main changes that we have, we did a day with Royal Mail right at the beginning of the project where we really invited the drivers and the unions, reps to come and see the product to really get a feel for it. And one of the features we implemented was a gear shift via the touchscreen. So the cab is a very basic cab. It just has a cluster in the center and a touchscreen. There's no other physical buttons in the vehicle. However, everyone thought that was great and unique at the beginning and loved it for about the first month, but then over time it became an annoyance. So we've also realized as a company there are some things that are still in a vehicle, in a cab vehicle, that are useful and don't need to change. And we've gone back to a more conventional switching mechanism for gear change. So what's next? So I mentioned different routes with Royal Mail. Greater integration into the fleet management portal. So we have a great portal now, but we're embedding that into Royal Mail and starting to understand what the vehicle is doing on a daily basis so the vehicle can parameterize itself before it goes out. We can do driver vehicle checks via an app on the phone, so we don't need all the paperwork that's attached to a clipboard that then gets submitted to an office later in the day and then filed in a cabinet. It's updated immedially. More data back to Grahame, so useful data, the data that he wants to actually hear and see and see at his fingertips. And more driver training, key performance indicators, and how charging routines can be structured. So I'm going to ask a question to you all in the audience. If today you were considering buying an electric commercial vehicle, and it was exactly the same price as what you're paying for a diesel product, yet on average it was over 3 times more efficient, would your answer be yes, definitely, I'd definitely buy it now? Would it be maybe I need to know a little bit more information? Or would it be no, I'm just not ready yet? Please, can you answer now? Interesting. It's like Brexit again. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, lots and lots of questions, gentlemen. What's the usable range?
On the product, we've developed a battery module rather than a battery pack. So the battery module can be, it's a 450 volt module, and we can have as many as on the vehicle as what the vehicle can fit, essentially. We're targeting a minimum of about 100 miles for the 3.5 ton, but then that could be anywhere up to 250 miles depending on what the user requirement is.
So 250 feasible real-world miles?
Correct, yep.
That's kind of game-changing. And how long would it take to charge that?
Again, it depends on the infrastructure. So if we've got fast charging in the facility...
So 50 kilowatt?
Yeah, that would be...
Yeah.
Well, if it's 50 kilowatt pack, it's 1 hour on a fast charger, but if it's beyond that,
so
it'd be a lot more.
A 250 range, 50 to 100 kilowatt charger,
Yep.
you could be getting up to, what, 80% efficiency within a couple of hours?
I would say, yeah, yep.
These are impressive figures. Yeah, Scotty Postman in Edinburgh, we need these now. What's the useful economic life of the vehicle likely to be?
This is a tricky one. No one really knows how good battery technology is going to be and where it's going to be in the future. We've got personnel within the company that have introduced electric bus products into the market 10, 12 years ago. And they've done assessments on these products, and there's been no notable degradation of the battery in that period of time. So the battery manufacturer puts a warranty on the battery, the OEM puts another warranty on the battery, the user who's using it puts another warranty, and by that point everyone gets down to sort of 5 years. But the reality is it could be 12 to 20 years, I'd say, on a battery at this stage. We're also developing our own battery technology in the background, which is solid-state battery technology.
So not lithium-ion?
Not lithium-ion, but it will be within 2 to 5 years that that's available into the market. But at the moment, I think that all the OEMs are in the same sort of boat with the same battery technology, the same cell chemistry. So there's a level playing field from a battery chemistry, but an integration in the vehicle. It's I think we've got a very different product than other OEMs.
So do you think the future is going to be lithium-ion or lithium-sulfur?
I think it's solid-state. Yeah.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Solid-state batteries are the future. The cost of that vehicle to the Royal Mail, can you tell us what that was?
It's the trial, so
Yeah,
we've still, at the end of the trial, we'll be talking about what that may look like.
Let me rephrase that then. What would you like the price point of that vehicle to be?
For that particular product? Got me on the spot here. Well, we're targeting the same price as diesel, so if you looked at a typical 7.5 ton, you'd be looking at mid-40s, I guess. So the 3.5 ton product, we're retailing that for around £35,000.
Okay,
including battery.
It's not that far away.
No.
Okay, and how long do you think we're going to be from seeing these things actually in mainstream use?
We've opened up a production facility in Banbury. It's 110,000 square feet. It's going to be built by robotic assembly, majority, rather than labour. And we're looking at implementing this production middle of next year with the 3.5 ton product first, and also a large bus product. And then the bigger trucks and buses and of different variants and sizes will come after that. But the point is, we've done the two extremes at the moment. We've done the biggest vehicle of the road, and we've done the smallest vehicle. Therefore, we know the journey of how to get through.
Between the two.
Yeah.
And the last question, how does the range extender work?
The range extender is just a source of energy for us. So we've developed we've not even developed the engine. We've obtained a product that's very cheap to buy, that bridges that gap between, do I buy such another big battery, or can I run a range extender for this moment in time until my anxiety passes, or I actually really understand my duty cycle of the vehicle. So the range extender, particularly on the Royal Mail product that we've got now, as Graham mentioned, it's held on by just a very few bolts. It's got a high voltage plug, a low voltage plug. Disconnect that, and you plug the battery in the same plug again. It's very simple.
So almost like an optional extra.
Exactly, yeah.
Great. Fascinating presentation, gentlemen. I
Thank
wish
you.
you all the luck. Ladies and gentlemen, Graham and
Thank you.
Ben, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Well done.